This week on Supercars Torque, we've got 3 different winners, red flags, and incidents galore to talk about. The big news this week, of course, is Will Brown got his first pole and he had a bright new paint job for the weekend. I shouldn't say too much, it's great, new sponsors coming in, but, it might be a bit more exciting if it was a little bit more inspired paint job. We'll have it for the rest of the year, so that is good news. But yeah, maybe I really like the WD-40 look on it. So this just a little bit of a disappointment for me. The other couple of little things to cover off before we get into the racing. Jamie Whincup has all but confirmed he wants to do the endurance races next year. Races, hopefully races. So this leads to the 3 co-drivers for 2 seats. So chances are there will be a Craig Lowndes wildcard running out of that stable next year, who's going to be the co-driver of that one. An interesting, proposition, because that will definitely be, they'll be in with a chance of winning, realistically, as long as the right person gets picked for that second seat. The other thing to come out this week, Tim Slayer or Blanchards were saying that they're hampered in their stops because they only have the option of doing 2 tyres, while other teams have the option of doing 3 or 4 tyres in their stops. I thought this was weird. They said they don't have enough mechanics, and I was trying to watch in the coverage over the weekend. I'm not sure if it was, I did miss it, how their pit crew, because they have to share the pit boom with Jack LeBrock's car. I did notice that the wildcards, the Kostecki and Randall wildcard, which is, Tickford and WAU there, I did notice that they were sharing. They had 2 guys from each team. That's what it looked like doing the wheel guns. And that's what I assume would be happening with the Tickford and Blanchards, that they'd have 2 mechanics each, to do each side of the car and whatever, and the normal team would have 4 guys there with the 2 rattle guns, but they were saying because they don't have enough mechanics, so either then have they got no mechanics and they're just using the Tickford guys, or what happens with Jack LeBrock, and then is Tickford running 4 guys on a Jack LeBrock stop and saying we only have to supply you with 2 guys for your stop? So that kind of, it just seemed a little bit weird. If anyone actually knows what's going on there, because the whole, it just seemed a bit strange. So if anyone actually knows, down in the comments, please, can you fill me in? Because I was very confused by that one. Now, before we start on the racing, there was a little bit of good qualifying incident. The 2 wildcards nearly got stuck into each other. That was a very, very, very close call. Once again, there seems to be a bit of this in qualifying, maybe a bit more communication and that. It could have been a massive accident. We've seen this many years. I think it was about 2010. I think it was Jono Webb and Greg Murphy. And Murph actually had a lot of back trouble after, having a similar incident where I think it was Jono was, or it could be the other way around. I think Murphy was doing the weaving and Jono, ran flat chat into the back of him. Anyway, these things should be there should be a bit more communication, with guys who are on hot laps at the time. This is a good reason to, go out with everybody to do your hot lap together. I'm not sure on, other than communication, on how to fix it all. Randall got a 3 grid penalty for it. Yeah, is that enough? You know, there were other guys that had got in the way really in that incident too. You know, probably, you know, Randall Copp because he was the one there, but really I think, you know, Kurt probably had to have slowed down to an extent before, like his lap was pretty much toast anyway. But it's one of those things, you know, maybe we should be looking at that harder than some of the other little things that, you know, we're looking at and bringing new rules out. So, race 1, the poleman Will Brown. Once again, the pit crew let him down. He was going great guns until that. You know, these things happen. We can't get stuck into them too badly. Other than that, they seem to do a good job over the weekend. My bigger issue with this was, why were they covering off Whincup? It was quite easy to see, or to me, it was quite clear that they were bringing in Whincup early, you know, as a bit of a foil, I suppose. And, you know, Shane was the guy who was intended to go and win the race because he'd do his long run. Then, you know, essentially, if Will comes in and covers off Jamie, then he'll have his tyres will be blown off it by the end of the race. So I thought that was a bit strange that they should have been really, they were focusing on the wrong Red Bull car for the victory. Yeah, to me, they should have been focusing on, you know, Shane Van Gisbergen. They shouldn't have been covering Whincup in that stop. The other thing to really cover off in this race, other than that, was everyone basically, they got pinged for going too wide. I think it was turn 8. There's bitumen there. Just let them go. I think if we build these big car park runoffs, people are going to use them, and then it seems to become a little bit arbitrary and things like that. Yeah, whether, you know, you're running off the track, or if you're a couple of mil over, you get you get your bad sportsmanship flag, and that, you know, you're running a little bit wide on a corner? Is it really bad sportsmanship? There's a lot of other, you know, bad sportsmanship things over the course of the weekend, which also, there was the blow up about the Shane Van Gisbergen and Will Davison thing on the first lap. It's first lap antics. I think I'm very surprised. Like, some of these guys seem to get away with this thing like over and over and over and over again. And I'm a little bit surprised that someone hasn't just gone and unloaded Shane Van Gisbergen and kind of, you know, get that in his head a bit like, ooh, I might get into trouble here. He just, because he continues to get it's like, you know, a naughty kid. Like, if you go and, you know, steal a cookie out of the cookie jar and you get away with it all the time, you know, you push the limits further and further. So you only have to, you know, it only takes one person to offload him, you know, one time, and maybe he might think about it twice, you know, and then not everyone would have to complain about that. I did find it funny in the press conference though, when it was all brought up, and they made comments about the good DJR car being in there. Yeah, that was a funny little dig there. Will's actually doing really well, and jumping ahead a little bit, he is actually in second place for the Sydney Cup or whatever, for the $25,000. He's only really, considering the championship's basically over, Will's actually really close to Shane in that Sydney Cup. Race 2 was the one that wasn't going to be wet, and then it wasn't at the start, and they all started on slicks. But the interesting one was the different strategies. There was a lot of different people on, you know, softs and hards, and, you know, how they were going to manage the race. What I found very strange was WAU. Why didn't they start forward on the soft tyres? Like, you've got two guys up the front next to each other. You're not sure which way the strategy is going to go. Why not split them? And then also, like, give forwards confidence, I suppose, has probably taken a bit of a beating, especially this year, and then he's going to be demoted as well. who cares? You're getting rid of him next year, whatever. Why not, try and give the kid a bit of a confidence boost and essentially a glory run. Put him on soft tyres. He's at the front and he gets to, kind of blaze away. Instead, he was just getting smashed and he ended up kind of nowhere in the race where that could have been, his start in race 3, a little bit questionable, but race 2 he actually got a good start. He could have, he was, I'm trying to remember if he was past Shane or not, but he could have, essentially gone with Anton and had, a really good first half of the race. Maybe he might have blown the tyres off it a bit quicker than what Anton did, but he might have ended up like 3rd or 4th or something rather than nowhere, and then just give him a little bit of a confidence boost. Like, then he knows he can run up the front with those guys. Instead, on the hard tyres, struggling to get him up to temperature and whatever, and he just got pummeled and ended up nowhere. And it doesn't help, especially, confidence probably taking a bit of a knock, again and again, and, people on the internet who have, high opinions of themselves and their opinions and whatever, get in and get stuck into you. And that would not, if he has that kind of a headline kind of result, like, hey, I ran up the front, like I was behind Anton, I was in front of Shane, I can actually do this. Could make a world of difference to someone like that at this stage of their careers. The other little thing to cover off for the end of that race, the battle for, I think it was about 8th, so it's really, really important. But Chaz and Jaime were battling there for position, and Jaime was blocking pretty hard, and he did end up getting the bad sportsmanship flag for it. No penalty or anything, just the warning one. But yeah, in those situations again, Chaz, can you step up to the plate and offload him? It just seems in the old days you would have had guys like Ingle or even like Scafey, Bow, Garth Tander, that people are doing this, like, get them out of, show them that we're not going to tolerate this. But we're all touchy-feely and stuff these days. So I'm not in for, just deliberately taking someone out, Craig Lowndes style. But, a bit of, if someone's blocking or whatever, well, you give them a couple of opportunities, they're still blocking, just unload them, get them out of the way, and they might think twice about doing it again. A bit like, someone standing up to Shane Van Gisbergen, if we could have a bit of this. There's not much of a championship fight, so, maybe it adds a little bit of spark to the series. Race 3, the interesting one in the wet. Chaz got relegated to the back of the field because he illegal bodywork. Apparently they hit something or whatever in qualifying and it broke the mounts or something in the front guards and they flared out a little bit. Texaco Sierras or something like that. If it had been a certain other, Holden team, would they have got a penalty for it, or would they just got a little bit of a slap on the wrist? We'll get into that down in the notes. But yeah, it did, the drive of the weekend. 2 thumbs up. Shane, Chaz, you are the winner of the weekend in my eyes for that drive. That was unbelievable. Bryce Fullwood, he decided to start Sunday night's race on Saturday night, I think. That was, when you first watched it on the telecast, when he first took off, you're like, that is either the most amazing start I've ever seen, or he has jumped that unbelievably. I did like how, Luckham found the footage of, because that was the first thing I thought of. Hey, Scafey did this years ago, where the start was just too good to be true. And when you watch the replay, he jumped it pretty good. But once again, he got a couple of laps running up the front there. He could see that he did, yes, he did jump the start, but it would be a little bit of a confidence boost, I suppose, to show that he can run up the front with those guys. We did see also on the first lap the you know, as Peter Adderton had been hoping for, the all-boost crash there. I think it's turn 3. Not from the angles and whatever, it just looked like there was a bit of an interlocking wheel on the first lap. There was spray everywhere, not much in it. The stewards didn't even look into it. Then that brought out the first safety car, which then we had the safety car restart. According to the telemetry, Anton lifted. Now, how many times, though, has a penalty been issued and then, oh no, we can't do anything about it because we've already given the penalty, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's Shane, so, oh no, we'll rescind the penalty. You know, you just imagine Roland on the phone, hey, no penalty for Shane, and then sort of go, oh yeah, okay, Roland, we won't give him a penalty because, you know, you run the whole show. Obviously it's not, but they hand out the penalty. If it had been anyone, like, you know, Waters beaches it in qualifying, and then they call the red flag, and then he gets out of it. But he still gets his penalty of his, you know, his timing because he calls a red flag or whatever. But we did decide to call the red flag a bit too early, you know. Yeah. Why is it one rule for and then one rule for others? It seems a bit, but it did all. I mean, then, you know, Shane went blazing off on turn 1 and snookered himself, and then they had the pit stop dramas, which then he did get a penalty for that he had to serve. Ultimately, the race ended in a red flag, and one of the Triple Eight guys still got to win. So, you know, Roland was pretty happy in the end, I suppose. So over the weekend, we had 3 winners, Shane, Anton and Jamie. You know, at least we're not seeing one person run away with it. And as I said, who cares about talking about the championship, because Shane's that far ahead, really. Even with not the best weekend for him, he still has over a round win. You know, it's over his teammate. Davison is 3rd in the championship, and Davo is 2nd currently in the Sydney Cup. What surprises me about this, we're only in the 2nd weekend of this Sydney Cup, and the guy, Jack LeBrock, is in 10th, okay, in the Sydney Cup, but 214 points away from Shane. So that's getting towards, he's in 10th, and he's, you know, that's a long way away, considering the maximum you can get for a weekend is 300 points. And, you know, you can't say exactly like Shane and Davo, who are, you know, 1st and 2nd, they haven't had unbelievable 2 weekends. You know, they've both had their issues. Anton's in 3rd, Nick Percat in 4th. That's, you know, he's had some really strong, you know, results over the 2 weekends so far. And if I was him, I'd be looking a bit and going, oh, you know, he's going to Walkinshaw's the best decision here, because, you know, my DJR car at the moment is looking pretty good. I think, though, that if you went over a whole season and took away, you only go to Sydney Motorsport Park once, that maybe over the whole season and the trajectory that Walkinshaws have been on, you are going to be better off at Walkinshaws. But at the moment, it's, you know, when you look at who's making a good decision and who's not making a good decision for where to go next year, you might be a little bit like, oh, I might have been better off staying. On the flip side, though, you know, Jaime would just be looking at it going, geez, I'd really like, can I get my hands on, you know, my new car for next year right now, because I'd like to finish off the year in that one. But that, you know, that pretty much covers off the racing for this weekend. Down in the comments, let me know what you think. I haven't got one with me at the moment because I probably didn't prepare well enough for this video, but there is the Bathurst competition video, the link somewhere on my page. If you want to check out the mugs that are the prize, pretty simple. I want to know who your top 3 are for Bathurst. Down in the comments, there is 4 mugs to choose from. If you get the correct. I'm pretty sure with the amount of entries I've had, you're going to need to get the correct order. I think there is so many combinations. There is still some available, and I can't remember who it was, but I saw someone, I think they put in like Jake Kostecki and Macaulay Jones or someone like that, that was just like a totally left. So if any of those guys get on the podium, they're in with a fair shout of winning it. So yeah, down in the comments, that's the way to enter, or check out the video to see the mugs that are on offer, and comment on that video. But until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.